down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the number one liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I am your host, Rick. I know sometimes I don't mention my name, and that's fine. You can just call me Whiskey. That's fine. That's just the way that I go, the way that I roll. Speaking of rolling, I think Texas is about ready to start rolling some serious stuff up against the United States of America. We are going to get a lesson, I believe, in federalism in 2024. We're going to get a serious lesson in federalism in 2024. I've got that. I've got some stuff on that. Plus, some other things have shown up in the case with regards to the Fannie Willis or Fannie or however you pronounce her freaking damn name. Anyway, there's some stuff there. And then also, I don't know if anybody noticed, but we just did an escalation over in the Red Sea against the Houthis. I don't think this is going to go very well. And then I've got some comedic relief. Saw an ad, which I think is just fantastic. Saw an ad on, on X that I think you guys are going to like as well. And plus, if I get to it, I have some more information with regards to that Alaska Airlines side of the plane that popped out. I've got just a tiny bit of more information on that. And then we also have I also have a fantastic question of the week that has come in. So we've got a lot of stuff going on, and I am, just to kind of answer Coco Dominguez's question, I am coming to you from the frigid Pacific Northwest, and by frigid, I mean we haven't been above freezing in the last 48 hours. We actually, I think we got down into the negatives with the wind chill last night, but unfortunately my outdoor thermometer batteries died, and so I didn't have anything to go off of there. But I can tell you that we've been in the teens, 15, like yesterday during the day, we didn't get above 15. Today, I think we barely made it to like mid or low 20s. So, yeah, so it's been kind of a cold couple of days. Like I said, on Wednesday, we were set to get really, really cold this weekend. We didn't get any snow, like zero snow, at least up for us. And yeah, so it's been really, 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 really cold, really cold for it. And I see Buddy got his nanners back, which is cool. That's great. All right, let's go ahead and get this party started. This roll started tonight. I am drinking a Kentucky-made bourbon Wolcott that I received over Christmas. Wolcott, which is fantastic. And yes, Mark, we are calm. We are calm because you have arrived over on Facebook. I saw that, caught that. All right. Oh, hello, Barb from Ohio. Hello. She's over on Facebook. And, of course, tonight I am drinking it out of the We the People Rocks glass from Lucky Shot USA.com. They've got the bullet going into the glass. Fantastic. Fantastic. Very good bourbon. Loving it. Gotta take a second sip. All right. So let's get things rolling. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.whiskeymusings.online, to sign up, and while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.whiskeymusings.online to get great content, to learn about our historical founding, and support the show in the process. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution, you can go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Hey, Rumblers, I got it right this time. I've got the camera flipped properly, so you can read this. Yes, this is awesome. The Constitution of the United States. Check this thing out. It is Saddleback leather, about 1/8 of an inch. The inside pages are tear resistant as well as water resistant. And check out that binding. Let me get into the binding here. Check it out. Goes all the way through. The leather, the pages, all of it. They have a 100-year warranty against materials and defects in workmanship issues, and so you can send it back to the manufacturer, and they will either fix it or replace it for you within that 100-year warranty. It has got what my rumblers call sexy rounded corners. Sexy rounded corners. And it is Buddy approved, Billy chewed, tested, and approved. And my youngest whiskey warrior has used this to get his civics badge in Scouts, so the information contained within is verified to pass a civics exam. That being said, go and get yourself a copy today, constitution.whiskeymusings.online. That's constitution.whiskeymusings.online, and you can support the show in the process, as well as check out all of the other wonderful information, books, etc. that the Institute on the Constitution puts out. Go and check them out today, and I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate. I like pushing their products because they're just fantastic products. Contents are Buddy says over on Rumble, contents are tested and certified by expert Americans. Thank you. I might use that. Hopefully you don't have that trademarked anywhere. All right. So let's get on to another fan favorite, of course. On this day in American history. And for tonight, and all the time, when we read on this day in American history, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, which is written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is chock full with all kinds of factoids and information about America. It is just fantastic. You really ought to pick one of these up. I read it every Saturday. And like I said, it's become a fan favorite. You guys should really check it out, pick it up, and take a look at all of the other information. There's information in between each month as well, which I don't even touch. So yeah, you just gotta check it out. All right, so tonight is for January 13th. We're going to talk about the long winter at Valley Forge. The winter of 1777-1778 brought dark days to the American Revolution. The British had captured Philadelphia, the colony's largest city, and settled into snug quarters there for the season. George Washington's battered army, meanwhile, limped to a bleak hillside in Pennsylvania and set about making winter camp. The name of the place was Valley Forge. The coming weeks saw unimaginable suffering. The Americans lived in crude log huts that did little to keep out rain or snow. The army dressed in rags. Some soldiers had no shoes except strips they had cut from their precious blankets to wrap around their feet. At night, they lay on the frozen ground or stayed up until morning, crowding around their fires to keep from freezing to death. At one point, Washington wrote, "We have this day no less than 2,873 men in camp unfit for duty because they are barefooted or otherwise naked." There was almost never enough food. Men lived for whole days at a time on nothing but flour and water baked on hot stones. Disease swept through the camp, leaving an army of skeletons shivering in the biting winds. But the patriot spirit never broke. Somehow, in the midst of misery, the troops managed to march, drill, and train themselves to fight. If we can just live through this winter, they told themselves, we can win our freedom. The Americans had arrived at Valley Forge with perhaps 12,000 men. By the time the snow of winter melted, only 8,000 remained. 8,000 who had survived on little but loyalty, courage, and resolve. It was a tougher army that marched away from Valley Forge. An army ready to fight. I'm fairly certain that there is a group of individuals who could never hold up to that at all. They may call themselves soldiers. They may say that they would fight and everything else, but realistically, let's be honest, that is a major thing. It's a major setback, a major piece of American history, and it demonstrated the resolve of these men who had in their minds that freedom was more important. It was an extremely important thing for to fight for. Speaking about that, we may be looking at having to do that once again. I hate to say it. All right, but before I get to that, I do have a public service announcement. One of our very own over on Rumble has asked. This is Bonnie. Bonnie reached out to me and told me that there is a young girl that she knows that is looking for a kidney. And Bonnie would appreciate some prayers, thoughts, things like that, for not only for the young girl to hopefully be able to make it to the point where she can get to a kidney, but that there is a kidney donor found fairly quickly. At least I think that's how I understand it. So, please, Whiskey Warriors, do me a favor, put your hands together, put some prayers up, and let's see if we can get this taken care of for this, because it's important to Bonnie, and of course because Bonnie is a Whiskey Warrior, it is important for all of us. So please go ahead and put your hands together, put your prayers together. Think about this young girl as she essentially puts together the fight for her life for this, and pray that we can find a donor for her to be able to Yeah, to be able to take and get rid of this issue that she has, this health issue. So thank you all for that. I do appreciate that. Okay. So what the heck happened at the Texas border here? And I know, Bonnie, I know you're well, maybe this will come through. Yeah, so there's a bunch of people, Bonnie, just so you know, there's a bunch of people that are looking at prayers and saying hugs and prayers and stuff like that. So there you go. Of course, I always know that the Whiskey Warriors are there to help everything out. All right. Oh, see, Bonnie, we will be praying. Here we go. Okay, so back to what I was talking about. You know, what the heck happened with Texas? Well, Texas has been, let's be honest, Texas has been pushing the United States, pushing the United States government with this illegal immigration, some might say illegal invasion, as to what's going on here down at the southern border. Well, Texas took another step here recently by putting it into a law to now where they can arrest illegals as they come across and deport them from Texas directly, rather than having to wait on the Border Patrol to do whatever they do and kick the people into America and so on and so forth. But the thing about it is that Texas went one step further. And this is honestly, I'm going to tell you, this is federalism at its best here, folks. I mean, people, I've gone back and forth, and I've kind of made this comment on the show, especially when it comes to things like sheriffs and constitutional sheriffs and that kind of stuff. But the thing about it is that we need to understand, and what you've been led to believe in your civics classes and things of that nature, is that the federal government is a higher authority than the states. And in some cases that is true. However, not all cases. When it comes to dealing with outside invaders, the federal government is supposed to be the one to take charge and to be the one in charge of that kind of thing. But when that doesn't happen, like what we have right now, it is, I believe, constitutionally up to the states to be able to stand up to the United States government and to show that federalism, meaning that the states, because if you read the 10th Amendment basically enshrines this idea of federalism very well, in the fact that and again, you've got to read the 10th Amendment. I'm going to paraphrase it here a little bit here, but if you read the 10th Amendment, it basically states that if something is not in the Constitution, nor specifically prohibited by the Constitution to the states, then it is up to the states and the people. Meaning, most of that basically means that the Constitution itself is a frame and a boundary, a frame and a boundary and guardrails for the federal government. It isn't a document that basically says the federal government has all these rights and you guys can go, to flipping hell for this or to F off or whatever. It is actually basically saying, hey, federal government, we, the states, and we, the people, are handing over this power to you. We control the power and we're handing it over to you in order for you to be able to do your job, which is a very limited and necessary part of civil government. And so what we're seeing being played out right now is Texas is essentially challenging what most people who are not familiar with the Constitution and not familiar with the way the Constitution is built, Texas is challenging the thought process that everybody has been brought up in, meaning that it's the federal government's job to do all kinds of stuff. And so, this is going to be a start. This is going to be a start for this entire situation. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of questioning, like I asked in the title of the show, I'm kind of questioning whether or not this is essentially the start of what is potentially going to become Civil War 2.0. So here out of Breitbart, Texas military seizes city-owned border park and ejects federal agents. Now, keep in mind, when they say Texas military, they're talking about the Texas National Guard. Now, the Texas National Guard, in this particular case, for those of you that don't understand, the National Guard actually serves two masters. Primarily, it serves the governor of the state. The other master that it serves is the federal government in terms of the president. But the president has to call up the National Guard, and they have to be allowed to go, essentially, by the governors. So here's the thing, is there is a park, a city-owned golf course located in the busiest border crossing point along the Rio Grande. And this park, you may have heard it, it's in Eagle Pass, Texas. The park itself is in Shelby Park. It's called Shelby Park. And it's, as you can see, if you're watching on Rumble, you can see some of the photographs. It's next to the bridge that actually goes across the arroyo or the river to the Mexican side. And we've all seen photos of like massive amounts of illegals coming across that bridge to be processed by the Border Patrol. We've seen things like massive amounts of illegals underneath the bridge. In fact, in the bottom left photo, you can see where they had an orange, essentially doubled back lines. Okay. And you can basically see that there aren't any illegals there anymore. They have essentially cleared out that park. The Border Patrol was using it as sort of a holding area. And what ended up happening is the Texas National Guard came in, basically told the Border Patrol to get out, and went ahead and said, you can take your equipment, but that's it. You're done. And they started putting up concertina wire, barbed wire. They put up blockades. And I've even heard, I don't know this, but I've even heard that the floats are going back into the river, the river, the Rio Grande River, in order to, or the Rio Grande, however you want to pronounce it, in order to block the illegals from coming across in this busy part of the border crossings. And yeah, they essentially, if you read here in the subtitle here, the Texas National Guard ejected the U.S. Border Patrol agents from the park and took total control of this section of the U.S.-Mexico border. Border Patrol officials told Breitbart, Texas, that the Texas National Guard units quickly moved into Shelby Park in Eagle Pass on Thursday. The guardsmen erected barriers around the park and instructed Border Patrol agents to leave the area. The official says this move only serves to raise tensions at the ground level between the state and Border Patrol agents who are bound by policy set in Washington, D.C. If the number of border crossings we saw in December return, we will be the first ones the state calls to deal with another humanitarian crisis of that magnitude. Now, the Texas Military Department moved quickly to secure the area under the authority of Governor Greg Abbott's emergency declaration and under what's called Operation Lone Star. It is not clear what the National Guard soldiers will do if any migrant attempts to cross the border into Shelby Park. And you can see there's a book here, or there's some type of a poster or whatever called Operation Lone Star for increased border security. And you've got Texas National Guard individuals fully outfitted with what looks to be riot shields. And I believe they're carrying small arms in this photo. But anyway, so this has caused a bit of a challenge in terms of the whole DOJ, Texas, the Department of Justice and the Texas and all of these, the strained relations and that kind of stuff, to the point where the DOJ, this is from Fox News, the DOJ renews SCOTUS push to act after Texas seizes border areas and blocks the Border Patrol from entering. They are saying that Texas seized Shelby Park this week in a significant escalation of tensions with the federal government. There's some video and stuff. If you want to follow the link, you can head on over it's, folks, I'm telling you, 2024, this is the year, people. This is the year, for a lot of things. And, so we're going to have to watch this. We're going to watch this very, very carefully, because the questions, we have all kinds of constitutional questions going on and everything else, here and there and everywhere. We've got all kinds of constitutional questions. So SCOTUS is going to be extremely busy, in this year, quite a bit. But I want to point out something. Not a lot of people realize this, but the start of the original Civil War, you might see as a little bit of a similarity here, but the start of the original Civil War has been kind of centered around Fort Sumter. And just so everybody understands, Fort Sumter was a Union-held fort in South Carolina's Charleston Harbor. And at 4:30 a.m. on April 12th in 1861, Confederate troops fired on Fort Sumter. Now, Fort Sumter was taken by Confederate troops less than 34 hours later, when the Union forces surrendered. And most people think that was they use that event to mark the beginning of the Civil War, just like the Revolutionary War, the British soldiers going and trying to take that ammo depot that the Sons of Liberty attacked. And so, this is going to be interesting. Now, there's several people, Dan Bongino included, who believe that this isn't going to be like a war from state to state. That it isn't going to be like one state, is going to join the Union and the other state is going to be the Confederacy or whatever. That this is actually going to be a war that's going to start off and be fought within the courts. And it's going to be actions such as what Texas is doing that is going to fuel it. Now, I've mentioned on this program, and I've said it a few times, that if things break out, it's going to turn into what I believe is going to be more of a urban versus rural scenario. By that, I pretty much mean it's going to be the urbanite Democrats who decide to take on the rural Christian conservatives out there. And so this is, again, I'm not advocating for any kind of political warfare. I'm not advocating for any kind of violence. But it is actions like this that are going to just add fuel to the fire. Now, is Texas wrong for doing this? No, I don't think so, because we have a do-nothing president, do-nothing administration. And in fact, the entire, one of the things that a lot of the Democrats are kicking around is the idea that the Republicans are blocking border money. That the Republicans are blocking the administration by holding back money that the administration is asking for in order to secure the border. And that, my friends, is patently false. Because if you look at what Biden wants to use that money for, he's not looking to stop the influx of illegals. What he wants that money for, in particular, is to basically put in a fast lane for that. What they are doing is he wants to put in additional border patrol that are going to do essentially administrative functions. He wants to bolster the courts so that they can fast track these illegals. They don't want the illegals to stop. They want to put in an express lane, and that's what they're looking to do. And the Republicans know this, which is part of the reason why they're blocking, we'll see if they will actually block anything. But this is part of the problem that we have, is that we have people who are uninformed about what these people are going to do. By these people, I mean the Democrats, are going to do with the money. They want to fast track the illegal immigration. They want to fast track people coming in. And if you haven't been watching, but the majority of the illegals that are coming across the border, they're not women and kids and families. They are young men who are of fighting age. And they're not people coming up from Mexico. They're people coming from Iran and China. And I mean, I played that video for you a couple of episodes ago of that Iranian national who was coming across and was interviewed. And he essentially told everybody, he's like, we're coming here because it's easier for us to come here than it is for us to try and get through, through legal means. And that's essentially correct. I mean, Biden pretty much opened up the border gates and has shown through his actions that he doesn't really care. They're just coming to the border. They're handed a cell phone so they can supposedly track them or contact them when it's time for their court date to come up, which, by the way, court dates are being pushed all the way out to like 2035. So these people are actually coming here and they're hanging out for multiple years before they even get to their immigration court date, rather than going through the channels legally and getting in through and going through and filing the paperwork while staying in their home country. And there's no way that all these people are actually asylum seekers in the specific sense of the word. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here with Texas. And we'll just have to see. Well, before I move on to my next thing, I want to tell you a little bit about the True Grit Roots Network. TGRN.net is a digital radio station that plays 24/7, 365 blues right on your phone on an app, or in your car on an app, or through your computer on an app. We are a blues station that's bringing you unique programming by our on-air personalities, and we have got a fantastic lineup. We're just getting ready. Starting next week, we are getting ready to add 2 new shows to the lineup from 2 new on-air personalities that I think are just going to be absolutely wonderful. Come and check us out at tgrn.net. That's True Grit Roots Network. TGRN Blues is the channel name, the one channel that we have up and operational right now. And come and check out all of our wonderful on-air personalities and their shows. One in particular you can check out is a kind of a variety show. It's called the Blue Plate Special, and that comes on at noon Central Time, and is hosted by a variety of personalities from Monday through Friday. So each day has a different personality hosting the Blue Plate Special. You should come and check it out. TGRN.net, True Grit Roots Network out of Austin, Texas. And you can come and check us out anytime. And, of course, I always let everybody know, being completely, fully transparent, unlike this administration, that I am part owner in the TGRN True Grit Roots Network family. Okay, so moving back to this is truly, I mean, we knew that the Biden administration was Orwellian. We knew that the Biden administration has been doing all kinds of stuff. But this article came out 2 days ago in the Daily Signal, and I got to tell you, this just reaffirms the idea that the Biden administration is looking for being the totalitarian and authoritarian regime that they blame Donald Trump for, even though there's no proof. But if you check this out, Orwellian nightmare, Biden admin consulted anti-Christian group for their domestic terrorism strategy. And really quickly here, what they did is they reached out to the Southern Poverty Law Center. So bureaucrats in numerous federal agencies apparently tag team with the SPLC, an organization that consistently demonizes conservatives and Christians, including groups such as the Alliance Defending Freedom and Moms for Liberty, in order to raise money and, of course, to silence political opponents. Now, don't forget that SCOTUS case about the misuse of the Biden administration with silencing conservatives on social media is still on the docket. It hasn't been heard yet. So this is going to be, again, this is kind of going to be an interesting thing. But apparently, according to the article, the federal bureaucrats reached out to the Southern Poverty Law Center, which conservatives criticize as a far left smear factory, which is true, as they planned to combat the domestic terrorism threat. And there's a video here. I'm not going to play it, but there's a video here where somebody, the president of the SPLC, Margaret Huang, bragged in a donor meeting that many agencies in Biden's administration had approached the center to craft a domestic terrorism strategy. Now, in there, she said, I think there's no question that we are unparalleled in our abilities to track and monitor the hate and extremist groups in this country. And I can tell you, we've had many agencies in the new Biden administration reaching out to solicit our expertise and our knowledge and information to help shape the policies that the new administration is adopting to counter the domestic terrorism threat. Yeah. Again, this is just an example, one example of many, that this administration is the threat to the American people. Okay? And like Barb on Facebook says, I'm still shocked of how fast this all came to be. Well, believe me, I am as well. But But here's another thing. Okay, so we're talking about Texas. We're talking about, the Biden administration doing all of these things that are anti-American. But now even Google, and I know nobody should trust Google, I agree, but it seems a bit odd that this should occur when we're going into 2024. So according to Blaze Media, Josh Centers asks the question, does Google know something we don't about a 2024 Black Swan event? Now, Black Swan is basically something drastic that happens, okay? So Google apparently sent out an email to its advertisers that essentially stated that in February, Google is going to update its inappropriate content policy to clarify the definition of what it calls sensitive events. A sensitive event is an unforeseen event or development that creates significant risk to Google's ability to provide high-quality, relevant information and ground truth, and reduce insensitive or exploitative content in prominent and monetizing features. During a sensitive event, we may take a variety of actions to address these risks. And they give you a list of examples of sensitive events. But the thing about it is that they, as usual, they pretty much are essentially saying that, if you're saying something about the, a sensitive event, whatever it is, I mean, they just don't want people to necessarily, jump on the bandwagon and disparage people during a sensitive event or whatever. But the thing about it is that they've been gradually changing their sensitive event policy since after 2021. And they've been expanding it and modifying it. So on the surface, you're not going to see much in terms of their policy, how much it's actually changing. But if you dig in a little bit more, according to the article here, it says that under the existing rule, an ad capitalizing on a natural disaster is specifically banned. Under the new rule, an ad capitalizing on a natural disaster is merely an example of what is banned. And what is actually banned is actually left to Google's own interpretation. Now, that's kind of a slight change and one that is very significant. So rather than defining an actual sensitive event and saying, hey, it's these events that are going to be there, they actually go and have changed to where a sensitive event, this is an example of one. Kind of like the all-encompassing phrase, including but not limited to, which I'm kind of surprised they didn't use. And specifically, the quote that the article calls out, an unforeseen event or development that creates significant risks to Google's ability to provide high-quality, relevant information and ground truth. So in other words, what Google is doing, this is the claim in the article, in other words, what they're doing is they're creating a broader policy. Sounds to me like they're getting ready to potentially start censoring should a Black Swan event come out and play. Now, most people are like, oh, okay, well, Google, Google's just a search engine. It doesn't really matter. Well, Google owns YouTube. Content creators like myself are on YouTube. If I were to go and tell the truth, say, for an example, I were to start talking about January 6th or another event similar to January 6th, and I say, oh, it's just a riot, not an insurrection. Well, under this new policy that's coming in February of 2024, they could censor me and potentially take action against me for that. So it's also potential, this according to the article, it's also potential that they might, they're like, their legal department is opening up their policies so that if something happens in 2024 and somebody like myself gives an alternative viewpoint of it, however correct, I can get censored or banned or whatever. So this is kind of interesting. Are they setting up for something Black Swan type? I don't know. But it certainly looks interesting. Okay, so let's shift gears for a second because there was a significant event that happened in the Pacific Rim that I've been telling you about. I hate to pat myself on the back here, but you guys need to understand I keep bringing it up, and I bring it up for a reason. Folks. So the election in Taiwan occurred. And, well, let's just say it didn't go China's way. If you look at this from the Epoch Times, the world congratulates Taiwan on its presidential election and defying warnings from China's communist regime. The voters in Taiwan chose Lai Ching-te as their next president. Now, who is Lai Ching-te? Well, Lai Ching-te is a staunch advocate for a free Taiwan and a staunch advocate for the United States and its allies to be allied with the Taiwanese or the Taiwan country. Okay. We also congratulate. Okay. So here's a statement from Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. The United States congratulates Dr. Lai Ching-te on his victory in Taiwan's presidential election. We also congratulate the Taiwan people for once again demonstrating the strength of their robust democratic system and electoral process. Defying warnings from China's communist regime, voters in Taiwan chose Mr. Lai, who Beijing has labeled as a separatist, as the next president on Saturday, which would have been yesterday for us. His main opposition rival, Hu Yu-yi of the Beijing-friendly Kuomintang, conceded shortly after 8 p.m. local time. So realistically, what does this mean? Well, let me explain. Okay. If the election had gone China's way, you probably would have seen a move toward more of a Chinese unification back with Taiwan. So here's part of the problem, okay, is the fact that now that the election is over with, and which, by the way, the election happened, but they actually won't take control until May. So the inauguration isn't until May, mid-May. But now that the election is over with and it didn't go China's way, you might see in the next couple of months, particularly, you might see some more escalation toward Taiwan. So keep in mind, the reason why China wants Taiwan is 90% plus of the world's electronics, and I mean everything from cars, phones, laptops, computers, even our most secure and, defense military gear like our smart bombs and missiles and so on and so forth have some type of Taiwan technology inside them. And China has been essentially falling behind with their chip manufacturing because of the fact that Taiwan, at the urging of the U.S., has embargoed them from purchasing these Taiwan chips. If China invades Taiwan, they will gain such a jump in technology that China could potentially increase their capabilities. I honestly, I can't even throw a number on it, but they would increase their capabilities with their technology and everything else, not to mention the fact that China, you remember that article that I talked about with Huawei, where Huawei had spyware, actually software on chip, okay, spyware that the American government decided that this was not a good thing, and so they banned the sale of Huawei materials. And that it's it's just this is a very dangerous, a national security risk, and it's a really bad situation here. And if America decides to jump in to a conflict, that will put both us and the Chinese nose to nose. And this is something that, of course, the Biden administration, because of their wishy-washy and weakling and so on and so forth, weak foreign policy, that's something that China is fairly certain is going to happen. And the closer that we get to 2024, and the more that Trump looks like he's going to be the victor, the chances of a China move on Taiwan, I think, increase. And so this is something that we need to be very, very careful and watch. But the first domino on this entire thing was the election that was being held. Now that that's done, one more, click is in place for it. Okay. So we're just going to have to be very, very monitor that situation very, very carefully. All right. Another area of the world that we are having challenges with, no surprise, the Middle East. Now, we've been talking about, we have been talking about the Houthis of Yemen and how they've been affecting shipping in the Red Sea and going through the Suez Canal, and how shipping companies are now sending stuff around the Horn of Africa for an additional like 10 to 12 days round trip, plus additional costs. And so guess what? Those prices that we've been seeing, there is a high probability that prices are going to actually go up the longer that this shipping issue comes into play. Now, the funny thing about this is Trump actually declared the Houthis a terrorist organization just 10 days before he left office. Trump declared Houthis a terror org, but Biden and the adults undid it as a priority. So just days after taking his oath of office, President Joe Biden directed the government to delist Yemen's Houthi rebels as a foreign terrorist organization. On January 28th, 2021, just 8 days after Biden's bizarre inauguration, this is from the National Pulse, by the way, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, I keep saying Anthony, but it's Antony Blinken, was asked during a press conference which policies enacted by President Trump were a priority for the State Department to reverse. He responded that reversing the terrorist designation and lifting the sanctions on the Iranian-backed Houthis was a priority in my book. Now, why is this important? Well, first of all, you know that the Biden administration is very pro-Iran, okay? And that the Biden administration has done nothing but try to appease Iran as much as possible. And even now, with the invasion in the Gaza Strip done, and I say invasion, but the penetration into the Gaza Strip by Israel and the Israeli Defense Forces to try and get rid of Hamas, as we've been talking about here on this program, the Houthis have been kicking up their attacks. And so far, we hadn't really done anything until recently. And we went and attacked the Houthis in what some are calling the essentially an escalation of tensions in that area. Now, understandably, we did it as a coalition. So it wasn't just the U.S. that was attacking this, but we did it as a coalition. My understanding is Australia was a part of it. The UK was a part of it. Even Bahrain was a part of it. So it was a bipartisan or whatever you want to call it, coalition that did this attack. But the fact still remains that the Houthis are not being listed as a terrorist organization. They are still a pain in our butts in the Red Sea, and we'll have to see how this affects things with Iran moving forward. But once again, this demonstrates how Biden himself is absolutely abysmal on foreign policy. Sorry, hold on, I digress for just a second. Bonnie over on Rumble thinks that me personally, would be a great press secretary. Well, thank you for that vote of confidence. I don't know if I would necessarily want the job, although I think it would be cool to sit up there and like whack-a-mole with the, especially the leftist mainstream media. Smack them down and, basically look at them and do kind of the Trump thing. You are fake news. That kind of thing. I think that would be fun. I might, now that I think about it, I might actually have a lot of fun with that. Trump, President Trump, when you get elected, come on. And yes, I would wear the hat. I would definitely wear the hat. Probably put some boots in it too. Put some boots. These boots were made for walking and stomping on press people. That could be a new song, new hit on the top 40. Anyway, all right. So get back to the show. Biden's own words show that he was wrong on foreign policy yet again. Now, for those of you that don't understand, he actually was wrong when Obama was going after bin Laden and had the SEAL team ready to go and take care of bin Laden. Joe Biden disagreed with that decision. Joe Biden said, I don't think we should be doing this. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting, but yeah, so here is confirmation. On Thursday night, the United States, in partnership with the United Kingdom, carried out a series of airstrikes on Iranian-backed Houthi targets in Yemen. The retaliation came after months of Houthi attacks on U.S. troops in the region and after the group cut off shipping in the Red Sea by hijacking ships and launching drone strikes on a number of military and commercial vessels. But while the strikes were welcomed to issue a deterrence. Now, one thing you've got to understand, one thing you need to understand is that over there, they only understand one thing, and that's power. And if you have the power, okay, and you use it, they give you respect. As much as respect as they can give. I mean, let's be honest, they don't really respect anything other than the power. However, that being said, the whole point of the situation is to issue deterrence. I mean, that's essentially what America's military might around the world has essentially been for years is a deterrence to all of these would-be dictators. I mean, one of the greatest examples I see and have seen in the past in terms of deterrence is when this little guy in Libya decided to start mouthing off. His name was Muammar Gaddafi. And he started mouthing off about the West and about the U.S. in particular, and even Ronald Reagan. And Ronald, God rest his soul, he went ahead and targeted 3 of Gaddafi's palaces. Hit all 3. Hit all 3 of them. Unfortunately, depending on which way you want to look at it, unfortunately, in one of them was Gaddafi's son. One of Gaddafi's sons. And yeah, basically the message was given, shut up. We're done with you. We knew you weren't home. But you do it again and we'll hit you while you're at home and asleep. Never heard from Gaddafi again. He shut up quickly and just sort of faded off into what I would consider historical obscurity after all of that crap that he was going. Well, something that you don't want to fade off into historical obscurity is this show, and you can help support this show by heading over to my store. Go to store.whiskeymusings.online and check out some of the things that I have. Take a look at this. Take a look at this lineup. I've got aprons, hoodies, pint glasses. I've got covered drinkware, stainless steel drinkware with covered insulated drinkware and stuff. I have coffee cups. I've got water bottles. I have t-shirts, tank tops, just all kinds of stuff in this store. Head on over to store.whiskeymusings.online and go and take a look at all of the things that I have available. Long sleeve, short sleeve shirts, just a plethora of items with not only my logo on them, but also my famous motto, which is when I drink, I think. I've even got action wear, bags, duffel bags, backpacks. There's the great GETTR, which today, being as cold as it is, might help you out in the cold. I've already mentioned hoodies. I've even got like crop hoodies, which I don't understand, but some of the girls seem to like cropped hoodies. Don't know why. The whole midriff thing is there. And also I do have caps, but you're right, Bonnie. I don't have this particular hat there yet, but it will be coming soon, I promise. But anyway, go over to the store, go to store.whiskeymusings.online and check out all of the things that I have, make a purchase and help support the show. I only take a little bit of it. I try to keep the prices low and try to keep my what do I call it? The profit, I guess. So anyway, head on over to store.whiskeymusings.online and know that the proceeds go to help support the show. That's store.whiskeymusings.online. Go and check it out today. I do appreciate it. And so help support the program. Okay. So back to what I was talking about in terms of the Houthis and the Red Sea. We have a bit of a problem, too. And yes, Bonnie, I love you too. I love you too. We have a bit of a problem, and this is actually going to affect, not only is the shipping part a problem, but we also have something else that is going up that is going to affect our prices too. This coming from Breitbart. Oil prices surge as Red Sea conflict escalates, threatening more inflation. Now, here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand about oil. They think that when you think of oil, you think of gasoline, you think of oil for your car, you think of diesel fuel. But what you don't see that you need to know is plastics are made from oil. Okay? Plastics are made from oil. Our clothes, like the polyethylene fibers and nylon and all of those, our clothing comes from oil. There is so much that you have in your house that you're wearing that comes from petroleum as its base ingredients. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. And so for the oil prices, the oil barrel prices going up, we have some serious challenges, because not only does it affect the things that we purchase and make, it also affects all of our transportation, all of the, getting those places from, or getting those products from point A to your store to into you yourself. That all adds cost, and all of that cost keeps driving up prices. It keeps running across these lefties who keep talking about, the whole corporation and its corporate greed that's causing all this. No, it's not. It's actually simple COGS. It's cost of goods and services. And people just don't understand all of the ways that certain items can affect everything that we touch and deal with every day. This is going to be a bit of a problem, because not only do we have, now keep in mind, the whole Red Sea conflict keeps shipping all items from going through the Suez Canal, which is a shorter and quicker trip than going all the way around the Horn of Africa. It also costs less to go through the Suez Canal. You remember when that tanker got turned sideways in the Suez Canal? Obviously, that caused a hiccup in our supply chain. This is causing a hiccup in our supply chain just as much, and potentially can go on a heck of a lot longer than that. Okay. So this is something that we need to be careful of, and we need to watch. And again, this is just another theater. I mean, if you recall, I was talking about this, and I was saying this before. There's going to be 3 theaters of operation in World War III. You're going to have the Eastern Europe theater, which we've already got with Ukraine and Russia. And then you have the Middle Eastern theater, which is starting to heat up now, even as much as what Israel is trying to keep the temperature as low as it possibly can in dealing with the Gaza Strip. The entire theater is starting to kick up, as we can see through Iran's push of the Houthis. Don't be surprised if Hezbollah doesn't start kicking off, okay? But you have the Middle East theater, and I called the Pacific theater with China, with the China and Taiwan conflict potentially coming down the pike. We've got a lot going on for 2024. I am going to be incredibly busy trying to bring you the most relevant information and factual information as I possibly can to this program. And by the way, speaking of relevant and practical and truthful information, apparently Fani Willis and the Georgia's prosecution team has just taken another hit. Has just taken another hit. What other hit could you have? Well, if you recall, I talked about Fani Willis's alleged affair and improper relationship with her buddy that she was talking about. I got a little bit more on that. But now it's coming out that apparently not only did Fani Willis's team, or some members of her team, go and visit the White House, But now, apparently, we now know that they also met with and got documents from the House January 6th Select Committee, that committee that essentially started the whole bullcrap about the insurrection and tried to prove it with that television special that they put together that nobody watched. But anyway, committee staff, this is a claim from Politico. This is in Politico. I mean, this is the leftist propaganda outlet Politico themselves pulling off on this. And here's what's from there. Committee staff quietly met with lawyers and agents working for Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis in mid-April of 2022, just as she prepared to convene a special grand jury investigation. In the previously unreported meeting, the January 6th committee aides let the district attorney's team review, but not keep, a limited set of evidence they had gathered. Over the next few months, committee staff also had a series of phone calls with Willis's team. They answered the prosecutor's questions and shared insight on matters like Trump's false electors gambit, his efforts to pressure Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Both of those ploys ultimately featured prominently in the criminal charges that Willis has brought against Trump and his allies. Oh, boy. Fanny. And by the way, Letitia James is also reported to have put in some stuff as well. But we also have some further information about Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. He apparently also didn't disclose payments that he received from working on the racketeering case against former President Donald Trump to his wife, who is in the process of or has just completed the whole divorce proceedings. So apparently he didn't disclose that, and so he left his wife without any financial support throughout their divorce proceedings, according to a court document obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation. I think it's a little early to kind of talk about this, but there is a potential that this whole thing in Georgia is going to get unraveled at the seams. And it's not only just the case and, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade and their collusion with the White House and the January 6th Select Committee and so on and so forth. Apparently, the House Judiciary Committee, according to the Epoch Times, is launching an inquiry into the special Trump prosecutor, Nathan Wade. So they're going to dig and find and try to find something. According to a letter from House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan from Ohio, Mr. Wade is believed to be in possession of documents and information regarding the coordination of Fulton County District Attorney's Office with other politically motivated investigations and prosecutions, as well as the potential misuse of federal funds. Yeah. Seems like the more we uncover, the worse it gets, and it's just going to keep getting deeper and deeper. Yeah. Believe me, if you were not a believer in the entire deep state idea and how these people all start colluding, all you have to do is look at the Democrat leftist hive mind. They all do this. They all communicate. They in fact, there's times where they even communicate at times where we don't even know that they're communicating. But if you look at their social media posts and everything that they say in front of the cameras and so on and so forth, it's all as though it's 100% rehearsed and put out in a script. This is going to be very, very interesting. 2024 is going to be extremely, extremely interesting. All right. So just a couple of funny things that I want to, funny, ironic, whatever, stories that I want to bring to you. So right here, apparently Biden visited Pennsylvania and was called a loser by swing state voters in Pennsylvania during a visit to some small businesses. Now, one of the things that Biden and the Biden administration and Kamala Harris have all been talking about is all of the numbers of small business applications, mine included. I opened up a small business to cover and you guys may have noticed the change at my ending where I opened up a media company. And so I joined in on that. But believe me, it had nothing to do with the Biden administration. That being said, apparently he was repeatedly heckled by swing state voters saying, "Go home, Joe." Yeah, things are starting to change. The pendulum is starting to slide the other direction. Okay. It is beginning to slide the other direction. Speaking of something funny, I want to show you this video, or this small video. This is fantastic. Hat tip to Amuse, who I don't know if they put it together or whatever, but they posted it on X. You got to check this thing out. This is absolutely hilarious. Let's take a quick listen. It's only a 30-second long video, but let's just take a listen. This is just funny. And it's buffering. Hold on. Oh, come on. This is killing me. Can't be buffering that long. Come on. All right, hold on. Let me try something here. I'm going to try and okay, here we go.
Senior living. Our residents feel right at home. Our vibrant facility offers delightful activities and outings, round-the-clock professional care, and exquisite house-made meals.
Well, I've been eating everything that's put in front of me. I've been eating all Italian foods, basically.
And ice cream.
And ice cream, chocolate chip ice cream.
White House Senior Living, where residents feel like presidents. At White House Senior Living, our residents feel right at home.
That's just hilarious. I don't know who put it together, but White House Senior Living. where residents feel like presidents. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's 30 seconds. I put the link in the description. Go and check it out. Take another look at it, but it's just fantastic. I don't know who put it together, but that was just it's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. And I hope that other people are going. I hope other people are going and doing this too, are taking care of this. I mean, you gotta have a laugh. You gotta have a laugh because of the fact that the lies are just absolutely ridiculous. And let me just say this. Every time that you hear somebody say that, oh, wages are up, inflation is down, wages are up, just let them spew their crap, because that's literally what it is. So here, the committee to unleash prosperity, put together this graphic. And let me go ahead and show you this graphic. This is really, really sobering, honestly. So you take a look at this graphic, and this is basically real wage, which is wage minus inflation. So that's what is called the real wage, okay? And this is a comparison between Trump and Biden. Trump obviously is the red line, Biden is the blue line. And the reality of all of this stuff that they keep talking about, how inflation is down and, your wages are up and all of these things, they're actually not. They're not. They literally are not. And you know it as well as I do. Every time you go to the store, I mean, I can tell you, Mrs. Whiskey takes and goes to the store and she comes back and she keeps telling me, she's like, oh my gosh, how much stuff is today. Folks, they can talk about the stock market as much as they want. They can talk about, all of these things like the jobs and the GDP numbers. And I've explained to you on this program with the GDP numbers that they're lying because GDP takes into account all of the government spending that they're doing. In terms of the jobs report that came out in December, I told you in just in the last couple of episodes, I told you the jobs report is wrong. They're getting rid of full-time jobs and they're replacing them with part-time jobs. And it's taking people, to have 2 or 3 jobs in order to make ends meet. Well, this is why. Because once you get to a point, and as you can see, this spike that comes down in the blue side, in this pink section here on the bottom, when you see that spike go down, that was when inflation was rising to like 9%. And his overall effect on inflation right now is running just under 17.5%. In the 3 years that he has been involved. You've seen things like food and gas at 25% higher than what they were under Trump. All of that affects our money because the dollar itself is worth less. It takes $1.18 roughly today to buy what it did at the end of 2020, before Biden went into office. Or I'm sorry, in the end of 2020 into 2021. That's right. This isn't even counting things like housing or anything else. I mean, what I'm talking about. But this right here is a clear graphic that is essentially demonstrates the difference in the wallet between Biden and Trump. There is no way that Trump is not the better economic record than what Joe Biden is right now. I've been looking for a graphic like this, and I'm going to start using it on my social media. I'm telling you, this thing is just fabulous. It is fantastic. It shows you specifically in one hit what the Biden administration and his inflation has done. Because again, everybody talks about inflation in terms of a month-to-month inflation. They don't talk about year-to-year and groups of years inflation. They don't talk about that. And again, the overall impact of just inflation since Joe Biden entered into office is running at roughly 17.5%. Whereas the cumulative effect of inflation under Trump over his 4 years, not 3, but 4, was 7.8%. Telling you, this man, how this man can get back into office, I have no idea. This is just absolutely horrible. All right. So, one other thing that I want to talk to you about real quick before I get to the question of the week, and I'm going to go a little over, but one of the things that happened just this past week was a door plug that came loose on an Alaska Airlines jet. And it was the 787 MAX 9s. And apparently, originally they were saying it was a escape door, or it was a one of the emergency doors, but it was actually a plug. So apparently these fuselages are modular in some way, and they can put a panel in that has bolts to it. They can bolt a panel instead of an emergency exit. And so what ended up happening is the emergency, or the plug that was put in, apparently had loose bolts and got pulled out. Well, now we find out that actually not only this plane, but this plane itself had a couple of depressurization warnings that came out during a couple of its flights. And then the other thing that came out as we start to learn more and more about this is that United found a couple of their planes, their MAX 737 MAX 9s, that had loose bolts for those blank doors that get put in, the door plugs. Now, there's no information as of yet with regards to how these bolts could have been loose like that. But one of the things that has been going on is the fact that Boeing has essentially been self-inspecting its planes, and now the FAA is thinking about potentially rescinding that, and is starting to consider expanding oversight of manufacturing. There's also no information yet, but I want you to just think about this. This whole push with diversity, inclusion, and equity, or DEI or DIE, whatever. This whole concept of putting people into positions that they probably shouldn't be just because they check off certain intersectionality boxes on a list is questionable. Now, we've seen the articles that have been coming out about pilots. In fact, Delta put together a advertisement where they were talking about having an all diversity crew. And the funny thing is, when they mentioned that all diversity crew in the ad, there were no white people. I'm just going to point out something. I don't care in terms of something like my doctor. If I had to go in for heart surgery, I would have literally zero, or give literally zero Fs, whether or not the doctor was Indian, Pakistani, black, white, Asian, purple with pink polka dots. The son of a gun or son of a gal, whoever, that was working on me had better have the highest grades, the best record, and everything else that comes with being a medical doctor. Have no claims against them, no malpractice claims, etc. I'm not looking to have somebody work on me who was hired just because of the color of their skin, an immutable object. This is ridiculous. This idea of hiring not the best person, but the person who fits a certain intersectionality box on some freaking governmental list is going to cause problems. Now, just to be clear, there is no evidence at this time that this particular incident was due to a diversity hire. I want to make that clear. It was a obvious oversight, but again, it just brings to question and begs the question from a lot of folks who are out there, why you would incentivize and put the emphasis on diversity hiring rather than finding the best person for the job. This is just absolutely crazy. All right. So, I got to tell you, folks, 2024, this is the year. I don't know what the hell happened, but this is the year. This is the year. This is the all in. If you're a Texas Hold'em person, this is an all in situation for this. All right. So let me go ahead and let's just finish out the night with the most fantastical question for whiskey. All right, and this question comes from 3 Chevy out at Rumble. Hey, Whiskey. I keep seeing posts like this and was wondering if you had any information on how this got started. Seems quite a few people believe this. Maybe we should get them some tinfoil hats with rounded corners. Anyway, here's the post I keep seeing. The more you know. 2 constitutions in the United States. The first suspended in favor of a Vatican corporation in 1871. Since 1871, the United States President and Congress have been operating under a different set of rules and policies unbeknownst to the American people. This is due to the existence of 2 constitutions in the United States. The original, drafted by the leaders of the newly independent states, penned in 1776. On July 4th, 1776, the United States declared independence from Britain, making the birth of democracy and 95 years of freedom for its people. This period of liberty came to an end in 1871 when the original Constitution when the original Constitution for the United States of America was altered to the Constitution of the United States of America. Thanks, as always, for a good show, 3 Chevy. All right, so there's two things in here, 2 major issues in here that I'm going to tell you is, this is really, so first of all, you need to understand the actual Constitution of the United States. This guy right here. If you had one of these, which some do, but even if you don't, you can look this up. The original Constitution of the United States was actually not ratified in 1776. In fact, I've even talked about it on this show. The original Constitution, which there wasn't an original Constitution, by the way, there was what was called the Articles of Confederation, which we discussed on this program. The Articles of Confederation were actually written while the Declaration, or were started to be written while the Declaration of Independence was being written at the same time. It was actually 2 committees that came out of the Convention of, or not the Convention of States, but the Continental Congress's connection. Okay, but they wrote and approved the Constitution as we know it today in 1787. The Congress approved it in September 17th, 1787. And I'll show you right here. Hopefully it'll come in. There you go. There it is right there. September 17th, 1787. It was followed on after that and ratified by the 13 states that are listed here by 1789. So the United States Constitution actually didn't get fully ratified until 1789. Now, so that's the first thing, because this this claim says that the Constitution was originally drafted in 1776. It wasn't. That was the Articles of Confederation, which was scrapped and rewritten for the Constitution of the United States. Now, the other claim that this thing is making is that the period of liberty came to an end in 1871. Well, there's also another myth that's running around with regards to the United States being a corporation and being run by banks and bankers, and that lines up with the 1871 date. And the fact of the matter is that itself is a myth. The United States itself is not a corporation. Okay? There's a ton of lack of incorporating acts, the fact that the United States has sovereign immunity, and a bunch of past court cases that all have said that the United States is not a corporation. The problem that comes about, though, is a U.S. code that was enacted in 1871 called the District of Columbia Organic Act. And it supposedly, where some people believe that turned the United States of America into a global corporation, when in reality all it did was codify the 10 square mile area known as the District of Columbia. Okay? And if you want to look it up, it's actually Title 28, Part 6, Chapter 176, Subchapter A. And you can take a look at it. But the point is that they incorporated D.C., the District of Columbia, officially, even though the Constitution even though the Constitution itself created a 10 square mile area, it wasn't actually known as the District of Columbia until this was codified in 1871. They called it a district, but they didn't officially name it until the District of Columbia until then. So there's a lot of things that are in there, and they also talk about the idea that the United States is a U.S. corporation, and that it's the other comment is that the United States of America is different from just when you say the United States. But again, the United States, and this is the other claim, is that the United States was formed in 1871 and controls only the District of Columbia and the territories it purchases or acquires, meaning Puerto Rico, Guam, the Virgin Islands. Again, this is all bupkis because it goes back to that whole thing about the District of Columbia being incorporated and a actual organized district under Congress per the Constitution. So yeah, and anyway, the point being here is that there's a lot of stuff that is running around about the Constitution of the United States, about the United States being a corporation. It's all myth. It's all myths. And anyone with half a brain can actually go and just shoot this down. So in terms of your exact, the exact thing running around, just make sure you let everybody know, if you wanted to, that in 1776, it was the Articles of Incorporation. It was the Articles of Confederation that was first put together, and then it became the Constitution of the United States. There was no Constitution for the United States. It's a bunch of crap, and it's something that, again, has to deal with the fact that our education system does not in any way, shape, or form freaking teach this stuff correctly. All right. So I hope that answers your question, or at least sets you on the path to go ahead and start looking into this whole thing. If you really want to get anything further, you can look up factmyth.com, and they have all of the information there about the United States being a corporation. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that you can go and dig through that I just don't have time to cover all at once. So anyway. All right. That is my final Whiskey Musings thought of the evening. Do me a favor, if you like what I do, if you like what I'm doing here on the show, head on over to Rumble. If you don't already have a account on Rumble, do me a favor, create one. It's free, and head on over to the Whiskey Musings Broadcast and hit that green follow button. Also, don't forget, before you take off, like this video. Hit that thumbs up button. If you've already signed in and everything, hit that thumbs up button, because that counts everything. We will see you on Wednesday for another Whiskey Musings broadcast at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Oh, geez, I'm all screwed up. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Whiskey Musings broadcast on all of my outfits. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'm going to go and sit by a fire for a little while. Good night, everybody.
The Whiskey Musings broadcast is produced by Active Eye Media, LLC. All rights reserved.